Hello everyone, welcome, come one, come all, welcome back to the Invictus Racing League this fine evening. I hope you're all having a good evening. I certainly am, because my cough is finally gone. After 3 rounds of wheezing and interrupted cast, I can finally proudly say that this will be the first uninterrupted cast by coughing. How are we all doing? In chat, show you some love in the chat if you are in already this evening, and we will waste zero time. So before we get on to round 4, that is the Japanese Grand Prix this evening, let's talk grid, let's talk standings from round 3. So once again we saw the Mercedes absolutely take it last race. The Emir continuing that strong showing straight from Italy, from the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, Monza Grand Prix, forgive me, continuing a strong showing all the way from Monza, winning in Zandvoort 15 points, backed up closely by his teammate Frederick, who took the silver, and Cass, again, with a very strong showing in the Aston Martin. While they haven't been scoring quite the back-to-back podiums that Emir has done as of late, they are still putting on consistent showings. So they've not stepped out the podium once, and this is the only driver who has managed to keep that up thus far. And those podiums are ultimately keeping them at the top of the drivers' standings. Say Emir with those double podiums, quickly rocketing up to second, showing just how much pace they have on tap in that Mercedes of theirs. Following closely is Lenny. So Lenny Cook in third place, say with 26 points so far, 25 points for Frederick, 17 from Adam in the Ferrari. So Alfa Romeo getting 14 points from Yes Lad. So sadly, one of the many drivers who DNF'd on that last race as Zandvoort certainly had some moments, certainly had some very strong flashpoints. And if you did miss it, be sure to catch up on the VOD that's available on our channel, and be sure to subscribe while you're at it. Like the stream, show us some support, show us we're doing a good job. But that was certainly a very eventful race, it has to be said. And the Alfa Romeo, along with a few other unlucky drivers, say Dawid at the bottom of the standings, say recently joined for Alpine, filling the second Alpine spot. They did not have a good time. They were showing brilliant pace. They were up there with the top of the field. However, an incident put them out of the race, which is sad to see, and especially on their debut race, no less. That is the last way you want to go out. But hopping back to the rest of the order, so we have the AlphaTauri of Joshua hitting 13 points. McLaren of Cameron with 12, LTB with 10 points, followed closely by his teammate Jasper in 8th. So the two Red Bulls closely packed together, and 4 points on the AlphaTauri, 3 points of Taylor in the Ferrari, and then the rest of the grid on 0. And we will quickly take a look at the constructors. How's this shaken up the constructors here? The consistent points from Mercedes for the 1-2s from both the drivers has rocketed them up to the top of the constructors' standings, doing very well up to this point. And the other constructors on the grid are struggling to keep up, even with drivers like Cass and Lenny putting on consistent performances and both drivers scoring points. So far, in terms of per race points, Mercedes is absolutely untouchable. But we are going to waste absolutely no time now as we head straight into qualifying. So while these drivers get themselves prepared here on the racetrack, so let's use our time as well to get ourselves prepared. Time. There we are. We are all prepared and ready to go. Everyone is just prepping before heading out. So the lovely track that is Suzuka. I'm certainly looking forward to it. If anyone is in chat, do say who you're voting for. Who do you believe is going to be our race winner here in Japan? And looks like first out of the gate is going to be the two Mercedes drivers. So Amir and Frederick both heading out first. AlphaTauri and Ferrari also joining them, wanting to get those quick banker laps out. And we shall see very soon just what kind of pace is on display. Let's take a look at how these drivers will handle Suzuka. So we get all the tyres warmed up. I would not be surprised if we saw another Mercedes dominance here in Japan, as those two drivers have been just putting in consistent work. So they showed their hand really strongly at Monza. They showed it again at Zandvoort. I wouldn't be surprised if they want to continue that trend here. But that being said, hopefully we'll also see some other strong contenders, particularly Dawid, who put on a very good showing up until they got taken out and DNF'd on turn 1 back at Zandvoort. They were up there at the top of the field. So we do hope that we should see some good pace from the Alpine driver recently subbed in to fill in the second place on that team. They're going to stick it here with Amir as they go to set a banker lap, trying to get the heat in the tyres as best as they can. Before heading out. Going full hot lap, really pushing it. See, we should be seeing speeds of almost 200 miles per hour going down the start and finish straight. Getting a little bit shaky there in the Mercedes, having to do a little bit of a counter steer as we head through the S's. So this section in particular is extremely hard to get right. You're pushing it at the absolute limit. You have to get that entire section perfect if you want to maximize your speed through there. You can see Amir so far doing a very good job at this point. See them absolutely send it round. So passing some of the other drivers who yielding. And oh, what's happened to Frederick though? They lost it. Completely lost it there. What has happened to the Mercedes here? They must have pushed it way too hard and completely lost the back end as they head it out through. But we hop back in as Amir looking to be setting their banker. So getting the fastest up until this point, setting a good pace for the rest of the drivers here. Again, getting a little bit squirrely. I haven't seen Amir squirreling like this in his car up until this point, so perhaps is really trying to push it almost a little bit too hard, and that'll be something that he needs to dial in if he wants to get the maximum out of his car and of this race. But it is a 128.266, a very strong banker lap to start off the qualifying session. We have Jasper with a 128.7 in the Red Bull, a Ferrari 128.9 of Adam, Liam in a 130.1, and Matt in a 130.5. Although the two Red Bulls are going to once again nestle right next to each other. So we got second and third both taken up by the suits in blue. 128.7 only split by 73 milliseconds. So very strong, very consistent pace as well at this point from the two Red Bull drivers. Though they will have to keep that as drivers slowly get bedded in, get their outlaps done, and start to set some faster push laps throughout the rest of qualifying. In fact, we are going to head on with LCB now quickly, just see how they are doing. See if they're going for a second push lap, although very wide line going into the hairpin. So potentially might not be the one this time around. We are going to head on though with in fact we have, let's take a look at the timesheets from the pit wall. So we're going to hop on with Lenny for the time being, but so we have a Dawid with a 128.3, very strong pace from the Alpine, almost what we expected to see going in. So really seeing that magic coming out and seeing it all come together. Interestingly, we haven't seen everyone go yet. I would have been expecting all of the drivers to just want to get some banker laps out as fast as possible, but we've still seen especially some of the front runners, so like Lenny and Cass, and there we are. They've just gone for their outlaps now. But we are going to stick it here with Lenny as they are going on their fly. I'm going to see how the McLaren handles this track. So very good line through the first corners. Set up for the S's is crucial, but dipping a little bit onto the grass. And you can see they're having to let off a little bit there, not maximising every inch of the track where they can. So losing a little bit of speed. And again, say not quite maximising the track. Not getting absolutely everything out of the tarmac that's available to them, which is crucial for that section. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a couple tenths down there as we head into Sector 2, up to the hairpin. Are they going to get the line right? They are. It's a very good line. So a little bit of counter steering to try and straighten up the car. It's a very good line, keeping it smooth, keeping it consistent as we head through into Sector 3 now on 30R. Taking that very nicely, keeping it pinned. A little bit of grass, but they're still within limits. Ooh, getting very unsettled there. Taking a lot of the curb and a lot of the grass there. But still holding it together. It's not going to be the one, though. It's going to be a 131.4. So they've set a lap, but it is by far, at this point, the back marker of the field. So we'll hopefully be seeing them going for a second pusher here. We are going to quickly hop on with the second Mercedes driver of Frederick here as they now go for their flying lap. We're going to see again how the Silver Arrows likes to get it done. Diving through. Very good line there. Once again, to say we can see that throughout the rest of the field, we can see that they were getting the first couple corners nailed, but it's the setup into the S's here that a lot of drivers tend to struggle to really maximize the track. But so far, very good for the first sector, a 32 flat. And that is in fact the fastest first sector of the session. So very good showing. Maybe breaking a little bit too much. It sounded like a little bit of a lock-up there on the Mercedes. Game is having an absolute field day with the yellow flag zones. Not really sure what's going on there. We look like we have a stopped Red Bull. I'm going to quickly check in and see what's going on there. Not sure at all what is going on with the Red Bull there, but back to Frederick, who is on an absolute fly. Looks like they're carrying a ton of speed and nails the braking point, taking just enough curb to keep it under control, minimize the time loss, and it is going to be a 1:28.281, 15 milliseconds off of their teammate. Brilliant showing from both the Mercedes drivers so far, locking out the front row. Then we have Dawid and Cass fighting for the second row with the Red Bulls locking out row 3. It's all very close up until this point. So LTB setting a 1:28.5, so inching closer to the rest of the pack. But it's only half a second. It shows just how tight the margins are here in PC F1 and just how far these drivers are pushing the limits of their machinery to try and get the absolute maximum out of that. Going to take a quick look at Jasper, who is just finished their outlap and is going to go for a flyer. Hopefully going to try and pass their teammate here in Suzuka. So teammates aside, and say Cameron, interestingly, has yet to set a lap. I believe they're going on a flyer now. However, they have yet to set... Oh, it's getting very unsettled from Jasper there. Taking a lot of grass, swaying from side to side. They need to get their car under control. They need to do it now if they're going to salvage this lap. Taking a lot of curb on the inside there. Looks a little bit shaken, but Jasper looks like they have mostly recovered it. Got it back under control. So a very good line through the hairpin. Coming up on one of the other drivers in the field. That looks like... Yes, that is Alfa Romeo. So yes, lad. Showing courtesy to another runner. A solid line through there, heading into the third sector. Hanging on to seventh gear, maybe a little bit longer than they should have as we head into the last couple corners. So taking a lot of curb, but keeping it together. And it is going to be a 128.452. It's going to be an improvement of 2.5 tenths, but all it does is leapfrog them against their teammate now. They've closed up the gap quite a lot, but is it still enough? Is it going to be enough to lock in that third row at least, or are they going to try and push for more? Remember, there are just over 5 minutes left of qualifying still. There is still plenty of time in this session. In fact, we are going to quickly hop in now with Yeslad, who is going to be taking a flyer in the Alfa Romeo. Now, Yeslad is one of the drivers that we hope to see perform. They were doing pretty well back in Zandvoort, the Dutch Grand Prix. They were doing pretty well. However, disaster struck for them and a lot of other drivers on the grid. Turn 1 being especially lethal. One turn where you have to be extremely careful because, as we saw, Turn 1 claimed, I believe it was 4 drivers that race. So it was definitely a place where you could not take any chances. And for those who did, they really did not end up very lucky. But one thing we can see is that, yes, so far putting on a very strong flying lap. So 128.866 to beat. Are they going to do it? It's going to be close, but it is going to be an improvement. Say 128.553, putting them slap in between the two Red Bulls. Very good driving from the Alfa Romeo. They are brilliantly done. Brilliantly done. As we see, a lot of drivers are now heading into the pits, probably preparing themselves to go for a final flyer here in Suzuka. They're going to take a quick clock in with none other than Mats, who is currently on their outlap, getting some heat into those softs. So while the weather does look good here in Suzuka, looking nice and warm, as we see some drivers start to pack in, say bank their laps and settle in to their grid order, except where they are maybe not worth going for another push lap. So they've seen maybe this is the limit of their pace, this is about as far as they're willing to go. Let's save the efforts for the main race. And we can see Liam as well, weirdly enough, doing that. However, they're on a 130.1, so certainly curious. But we're going to hop on the onboard now with the Alfa Romeo as they go down the start-finish straight, ready to hopefully break into the 128s and join the rest of the field. Ooh, okay, very wide line from the Alfa Romeo, from the Salvarone team. So they're going to keep it together. Looks like they've mostly recovered it through the S's. Yep, looks like they've mostly recovered it now through the S's. A little bit of shakiness as we come out to the end of Sector 1. But again, so Matt's doing a very good job keeping that Alpha under control, where it looks like they're about to lose it, just about catching it. So exceptionally difficult in these F1 cars at high speeds. Notoriously unforgiving vehicles. You can see it's a retirement from Cass as they're banking their 4th place, a 128.432, which is a very strong showing, only just under 2/10 behind, and it's going to be a spin! A spin from Mats. That is going to be lethal for their qualifying efforts. If they don't get out and get back to the pits, they are going to miss out on a chance to break into the 128s and join the rest of the field. They are in a seriously compromised position. They're going to have to get through fast. There's a good respect shown to the other flyers on track. Very good respect shown. But what a shame for Alfa Romeo, so not having the best strokes of luck so far this season. We are going to head on with Dawid here as they go for their flying lap. Hopefully going to see some improvements for the budding Alpine driver, so the up-and-comer of the series up until this point. So Cass and Emir showing very well just how well they can drive those F1 cars, and now we have a new challenger from Alpine hitting the fray. Gonna have to let off a little bit though, as they're taking a bit too much of the curb on the S's. Having to yield ever so slightly, that's going to cost them a little bit of time. So far looks to be very strong pace. Say a 31.968 as breaking into the 31s for what looks like one of the very few times this session. Say qualifying wraps up in mere 127.981. What a lap! Breaking into the 128, into the 127s. Brilliant showing from the Mercedes driver. And Frederick is going to follow up with a 128.207. Looks to be an improvement there. Can Dawid match the stellar performances of the two Mercedes that we've just seen? It's all to play for here as we head through into Sector 3 and into 130R. It is absolutely all to play for. We'll wrap up the qualifying session. As the session ends, they've got to bank this lap. This is now or never. Are they going to break it? It's going to be a 128.022. Stellar driving from the Alpine there. Excellently done. So as we briefly hop in here with Morwell and some of the rest of the grid as they begin to finish their laps for the session, we are mostly looking at grid order. You say we're getting very out of place there, Morwell is, and there is going to be an abandon. Failing that, we have Frederick, who is currently on another push lap. So it looks like they might as well. So they have the opportunity to. They are still on track as the session ends, as you think, always one last try. Always worth the second try. However, this is not going to be it. So who do we have left? We have Lenny here. So on a slow, just looking at retiring the car. We have Matt, who is far from the pace. Yes, lad, who actually might be looking to take a push here. Yep, looks like they're going to take the push. What is it going to get? It is going to earn them a 128.484, 69 milliseconds improvement. Nice. Very nice from the Alfa Romeo driver. That is going to be the session. So we are looking at grid order right here, folks. Once again, very strong performances from the usual contenders. So Mercedes, the second Alpine, and Aston Martin of Cass. Very strong showings up until this stage. So very well done to all the drivers for a solid qualifying session. So leading out, we have Emir with a 127.891, followed very closely by Dawid in the Alpine with a 128 flat. Frederick taking up the rear with a 128.207, say holding the line for his teammate. Cass in the Aston Martin with a 128.432, a silent speedster Cass seems to be, so they'll be quietly making really good moves. We're making really good laps while we are focused on the rest of the field here. Say Jasper, the Red Bull 128.452, ever so slightly closer, followed by Yes Lad, LTB, Lenny, Adam, Morwell, Cameron, Coop, Mats, and Liam in that order. And what a qualifying session it was. So as we wrap up qualifying here, we have our grid order firmly established, heading into the Japanese Grand Prix here in Suzuka. Be sure to support us if you have not done so already, so a subscription would be fantastic. If you've been enjoying the stream at this point, give it a like, always helps, let us know we are doing a good job. And also be sure to check out our partners, so namely GT Omega, our brilliant partners here at Invictus Racing League, as well as gridfinder.com, say strong friends of ours. We've actually had some of our drivers, namely Amir and I believe Cass, who competed in the Gridfinder F1 season, or at least an exhibition race of theirs. So always good to see. It's a great community effort, and always great to have them on board. So for those who don't know me, I am Sappy, also known as Ben. I will be your commentator in the commentary box for this evening's race here at the Japanese Grand Prix. As we start the formation lap here, so looking like a very strong grid. As I say, we have our usual contenders, the two Mercedes in first and third. Dowd slotting himself comfortably right in the middle of the two teammates. So we may be seeing a little bit of fighting right out of the gate as we head through to turn one for our race today. Alright, certainly exciting to see. Certainly going to be exciting. We head it round. Okay, taking a look at tyres though. Interestingly, Cameron and Coop have gone for the medium start. So we may see a bit of an alternate strategy. Of course, the alternate strategies have not worked well typically in the past. As I say, with safety cars coming out, yellow flags quickly interrupting the race running. And as we see there, the pit stop strategy board coming out and telling us we could be seeing a soft to medium or even soft to hard, although I believe we shouldn't see much sightings of the hard, owing to just how different the levels of grip are between the two compounds. Especially here on a track like this, you're going to need to extract absolutely everything out of those tyres. High speed corners are punishing on the rubber. So the alternate strategy drivers will have to keep their wits about them and pray that the race goes as expected, because if there is an early safety car, they will lose in a big way owing to everyone getting free pit stops on the softs. So they will have to pray that everything is smooth and as planned. So as we roll up to starting positions, right, there we go. So all cars set in position. I am certainly excited for the Japanese Grand Prix. It's 5 lights and it is away. Okay, let's see how we do. But coming up to the first straight, it's a little bit of fighting, a little bit of tossing around. So Red Bull's going to look to peak on the outside. So it's going to be a big dive around the outside from the Red Bull here. As a LTB not quite getting the move done though. So as everyone is settling into their order. So take a look from the McLaren. Say Jasper and Yes Lad locked in battle right now. So trying to, you can see Jasper in the Red Bull just trying to peek around either side, just seeing if they can look for a move, but that move is not going to come. Looking around the back of the field though, we have a big battle between Liam, Coop and Cameron for 12th place, but Mats is going to have a big twitch and they are going to go straight off track. Not sure what happened there to the Alfa Romeo. Really unlucky for them there. So that twitch is going to cost them big time, especially in the early stages. Now they're going to have to fight their way up to the top of the field. So taking a look at the Red Bull now, say, of LCB, looking to make it past Lenny. Say, Lenny's got a little bit of a gap on them, perhaps owing to the dirty air. Say, a high-speed track like this, dirty air is going to be especially big a problem as we head through here. So coming up on the straight, so Morwell looks to be taking a little bit of a bite out of the gap every single time. Oh, bit of a lock up there from the Aston Martin, just trying to send it a bit too hard. That's going to cost them. You can see them now falling right behind the other drivers in the field. Pretty exciting first lap, has to be said. As we head around to here, you can see Frederick is closing in on Dawid right here. So looking to make a move and also try and stay out of the dirty air as we head through the high-speed S's. Most of the drivers have, for the most part, fanned out now. Although that being said, we look like we might be seeing some battles closing in very soon. So just quickly shut that off. Thank you. They're going to quickly take a look at the McLaren of Lenny here. So looking at the behind of Jasper. They are in a pretty difficult position. They're on. They have Red Bulls either side of them, so they're going to have to be on the balance of offensive and defensive in order to try and maximize the points for their team and for themselves as a driver. Are we going to see any moves coming out? Doesn't look like it. So we take a peek back, can see a little bit of a gap has formed either side of the McLaren here. One that they'll be hoping to maintain at least until the DRS comes into play, which should not be long now. You can see Amir setting a 1:31.619, very good pace once again, setting the fastest lap. And there we go, that is the signal from race control. DRS is now enabled, so we should be starting to see a bit more spice coming onto the track here today. Interesting though, a very big gap between Liam and Cameron. Not sure what happened. Could have potentially seen a bit of a twitch, not too dissimilar to what happened to Matt's. Although a gap has definitely formed in a few places. Not just that, but between Frederick and the two podium contenders right now. So Amir and Dawid are locked in a heated battle and look to be running away at this point in time. Going to stick with Lenny here as we come up to the hairpin. It's a very good entry, really closing the gap here on the Red Bull. And as we take a bit of a peek around the rest of the field here, looks like Adam might be teeing up a move, but it's not going to quite happen yet. Not quite going to happen. Jasper firmly locked in the McLaren sight, but they're slowly peeling away to the point where if they got DRS, would it be even effective? Because all of the other drivers in this train are also going to be getting DRS, so would the point be rendered moot? Although interestingly, Adam is going to get a penalty for potentially violating track limits perhaps. And so we're going to quickly hop on to the front. What has happened around the rest of the order? Say Amir has dropped back, and so has Frederick. What is going on at the front of the order here? So you see a couple DRS overtakes, potentially. And the gap is large enough between these two packs to where the two leading drivers in the Mercedes would not have had access to the DRS here. So Cass getting a little bit shaky, but is peeling away from the Silver Arrows driver. Coop is also going to be dished with a penalty for, I presume, multiple track limits, along with Liam. Also very interesting choices of the students. And not to mention, there will be things that are under review by the kind stewarding team, the volunteer stewarding team, I should say, here at Invictus Racing League. A really strong sense of community here, especially in this F1 community. But we're going to hang on here. We're going to take a peek on the title battle happening right now. For the lead for the podium. Emir is closing in on the Alpine driver. Looking to make a move on the inside. Isn't going to go for it, though. Isn't going to dive in. Dowd getting a little bit shaky in the chicane. Losing a little bit of the rear end. As we can see, the DRS is now open on the Mercedes. They're going to make full use of it here. Breezing by the Alpine driver. Giving him a proper run for his money as they seal the move. Frederick is going to do the same to Cass further in the field. Say a bit of trading. Going to hop on with Liam. Say hot battle with Cameron right now. So of course, Liam has the tyre advantage being on the softs, but Cameron is doing very well to hold off the AlphaTauri driver. Keep in mind, however, that these softs are going to go off sooner rather than later, and this is where the advantage of the McLaren comes in. Perhaps they have really worked on their tyre preservation, and that compound is going to be working to their advantage as we get to around the midpoint of the race, where the soft drivers have to come in. You can see just pulling away there. So great driving from Cameron, managing to pull away. Liam getting a little bit shaken up, having to correct for a little bit of oversteer there. You can see it's just a solid drive from the McLaren, and they're just getting away with it. What has happened? Oh, LTB has spun it. They've overcooked it. It's a collision. Morwell and Cameron. Big collision. Really, what has happened to those drivers? They completely lost it by the looks of it. Luckily, no DNFs to be found here thus far. But what happened over there? What happened? No, sadly, we can't see a replay of sorts. Cameron is going to have to certainly go in for damage from their collision with Morwell here. That is going to be a stint ender, that's for sure. And especially on the medium compound, they were on the alternate strategy. That's especially tragic for them here. Let's see, crazy happenings. As a nowhere near as crazy as Zandvoort yet, so we have yet to see some true content in air quotes. However, it's certainly spicing up here in Suzuka. Jasper and Yeslad are in a heated side-by-side. We're going to use Lenny as a POV here. A heated side-by-side. As Jasper's going to have to dip out. Yeslad had the inside on that corner. And what has happened? Say Coop has also seemingly spun out. Really not sure what's happened there to the Alpine driver, but they have dropped once again to near the back of the pack in a big way. And keep in mind, though, Cameron and Morwell are in second to last and last place, they have had to take a pit stop. So maybe now, if a safety car comes out, they may be able to pull it back. I'm honestly surprised with some of the debris on track that we did not get a safety car for that incident. There looked to be a lot of front wings, a lot of track side debris. It looks like the stewards were quick on hand to get it out the way in time. So DRS train commences. So almost hitting speeds of 200 miles per hour. Absolutely blisteringly fast these machines are. It's a pinnacle of motorsport. And we are going to quickly take a look at, say, Cass here. So chasing down Frederick. Matt's going to get a time penalty, interestingly. That's certainly going to shake up the race order. And Coop, in terms of their alternate strategy, all they can hope for now is that they can make up the time lost from their race spin with the medium tyres, not having to pit nearly as early as the other drivers, perhaps avoiding some chaos. But here we go. So it's Aston Martin driver of Cass putting on once again a very strong showing here in Suzuka, giving the Mercedes-Benz of Frederick absolutely no time to breathe. Refuses to relent. I know from their perspective they will definitely want to be gunning for another podium. Okay, so keeping it under control, very nice. So Coupe with a 3-second time penalty again. So are we going to see a bit of a DRS overtake? Frederick's going to peel to the inside. Going to go a little bit defensive. It's going to peel back though. So a little bit of a defensive show there. Adam, interestingly, is going to go into the pits. Not sure what happened there. Oh, Frederick's going to get very loose though. Going to ghost out briefly. Potentially they decided that now was the time to retire the softs, and we should see some of the other drivers also retiring their softs in favour of mediums, potentially. Cameron, though, on the soft and in completely clean air is going to set a 131.2. We've seen a lot of that here in the IRL Racing League. We have seen a lot of drivers who have potentially got involved in incidents or have been much separated from the rest of the pack, at least salvage some points using the fastest lap with the clean air. But it's a strong showing, very good fastest lap from the McLaren. In terms of the battle here, we're going to quickly hop on to Yes Lad, who is quickly chasing down and trying to lock in the position from Cass. As a Frederick again is going to get a little bit loose. Not sure what is happening to the second Mercedes driver here, but one thing's for sure, they are not gelling to this circuit nearly as well as they have other circuits thus far. Looks to be a lot less stable, that Mercedes here. Cass is going to peel in though, is going to go for tyre change. Amir is also going to do the same, swapping to the mediums. We're going to stick it with Yes Lad as they head and try to now challenge the second Mercedes driver. Cass also going for the mediums here. So going for a medium soft strategy, it looks like. We're going to quickly hop on though with LTB. LTB catching perfect time for a spin. Not sure what happened there, but they must have completely overcooked it and sent it into... We're going to get in the way of some of the other drivers on track, curiously enough. They're absolutely sending it a bit too hard, potentially. So Coop is going to go for another pit stop, perhaps got involved in another collision. Say LTB really not having the strongest of races. So I believe that's two incidents now that they had. Say they had their spin out in qualifying, and now here. And say Cameron is going to be the next to get dished out with a track penalty. Well, we're going to hop on with Lenny now, who's chasing down Jasper in the Red Bull here. Potentially going for either a DRS overtake if they decide to battle and take their softs on for a 9th lap. Dawid is going to get a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, but everyone is going to go in. This is cut-off point for the soft tyres. For the majority of the field here, they're all going to head in. As we stay in, is a very quick pit stop for the McLaren. All getting out with 0 time to spare. Strangely enough, it's going to be Liam. It's going to be Liam who is currently leading the pack, although they have yet to come in for their pit stop where the majority of the grid has. So just how long are they going to try and eke out those softs? And we can already see some of the effects of the soft tyres degradation. You can see they're not quite taking lines as tightly as they otherwise would on a fresh set. So we may be starting to see either extreme strategies. What has happened though? The Frederick has absolutely gone. Oh my god! It's a collision between Frederick and Cass. What happened there? That is a guaranteed safety car. They are stopped on track, and yep, that is as much confirmed. Oh my god. So we take another look at the incident as we pass by. Okay, that is Cass and Frederick out of the race. What an insane incident. They must have come together during the S's, say, in a heated battle, and it just got too close. What a shame we could not catch that on live, but that is 2 of our top contenders out of the race. Scarily enough. And now, in fact, one of the big winners we may potentially see from this is Liam. As given that they are in the soft tyres, they have now essentially earned themselves a free pit stop They are in a very strong position all of a sudden. But there we can see them swapping on to the medium compound. One of the big winners of this incident for sure. They were the last to head into the pits and swap their tyres for fresh rubber from the start, and it's showing. It's showing because now they are in 6th place. What a turnaround for the AlphaTauri driver. Previously had a pretty bad stroke of luck, especially when it comes to their alternate strategy usage. So we saw big problems with that in the preceding races. But now their strategy seems to have paid dividends for them. So locking a very strong position on the grid as we catch the safety car queue now. So checking in with some of the other drivers. We'll use this time to look at some of the fastest laps of the field. As Amir putting on a solid performance, a 131.6. Yes, lab with a 32.2. Jasper 32.4. Although Dawid around the mid pack, actually behind Liam right now, is a 131.619, perfectly matching Amir's fastest lap pace up to this point. And then we have Cameron using the dirty air using the clean air pretty early on in the race, with those initial incidents, to get a fastest lap for themselves, using the clean air and a fresh set of softs before they've now headed in for, interestingly, the hards. So there will be definitely a case of managing their tyres, while their degradation won't be nearly as bad as the mediums. The base grip of the hards is a lot lower. In terms of tyre management, this is going to be a pretty difficult job for the McLaren here. As we start to see everyone congregating behind the safety car, looks like the majority of the debris has been cleared from the track. The cars have been removed from the circuit. And so just going to be another safety car lap to ensure that the track is completely clean and ready to race on once more. What an exciting race this has been so far. One of the most unlikely incidents that we could have seen is one of our two top contenders coming together and putting each other out of the race. Certainly things will spice up in terms of the championship as well. This might see Cass dropping off of the podium in the Drivers' Championship, and Mercedes, while they are still hindered, they still have a very strong driver in Amir on track, currently leading the safety car queue and potentially the rest of the race. As we see here, one of the other big winners. What platforms is this league on? This is PC and PlayStation. These leagues are available on. One of the big winners is going to be Coop here. So despite all of their incidents and early issues in the race, they have the safety car to catch up to the rest of the field. So they've essentially been given a second chance, along with drivers like Mats as well. They've been given a second chance. Okay, and that is safety car officially declared to be in this lap. We can race once more here in Suzuka. So if you've been joining so far, be sure to like the stream, show your support, join us over on Twitter, or alternatively our website if you want to get involved in the action yourself. And that is going to be light to go green, and away we go. It's going to be a big jostle around the front of the pack. Liam is going to absolutely send it around the side of the McLaren. He's going to squeeze, absolutely go for it. It's going to be 3 wide. It's going to be a big squeeze. We see the Alfa Romeo and the Mercedes going off track briefly. Get very shaky from the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull. Insane opening lap from the safety car. We're going to see a big win for Liam here as they're now in 4th place, putting themselves in very good stead, as they are now also closing the gap to Yes Lad in the Alfa Romeo here. So very good jostling about. In terms of the rest of the field, we're going to quickly hop on with Lenny here as around the middle of the pack, who is going to potentially be teeing on a move. Although Jasper and Dowd are in a heated battle, so Dowd taking the inside of the hairpin. What a brilliant move from the Alpine. And in fact, we're going to stick with Jasper here. So are they going to go for the returnal move? It's not going to do it. In fact, they're going to get a pretty bad line. They're going to go wide as we head through high speed. So let's lock it on with Dowd there. Now, this is one of our fastest drivers on the grid, as we've seen so far, both in qualifying and back in Zandvoort before their unfortunate demise. So we are definitely going to be looking to see, are they going to be making up some positions? Looks like a little bit of a lock-up, a little bit of shakiness as we head through the chicane full start-finish straight. Otherwise, going to keep it together very well. But no, definitely a very solid roster of drivers here on circuit today. Certainly producing some very good racing. And exciting racing also. So we're going to take a quick look over at Liam, who is really trying to close the gap now to the Alfa Romeos. They're going to get affected a little bit like dirty air, though. You can just see how they're dropping behind. They get close, and then that dirty air becomes too much to handle in these high-speed sections. And they have no choice but to back off. They don't have the grip here. They're really lacking in the grip to make this work. And in fact, is one of the core reasons for the 2020 regulations coming into force is to improve this kind of racing, and hopefully we will see that in the coming seasons. Right, here we go. We're going to stick it, say, into Lenny though. We're going to switch POVs to Lenny here with a pretty strong lock on the position they want to take. It's going to be the AlphaTauri. They're setting their sights. They're closing the gap. Is going to be ascend into 130. Oh, we're going too wide. Good space shown, having to go a little bit wide here. Outbraking each other. Again, very good driving. Bit of bumping, bit of contact there. Lenny having to go wide. Yep, little bit of contact. Amir sitting at 130.9. Brilliant driving again from the Mercedes. It's going to be very topsy-turvy. It's a three-way battle here. So from 4th to 6th, battle for 4th place. It's a big battle. It's going to be a 4-way battle as Dowd has joined the fray and looks to have absolutely sent it through the grid. And hop on with the onboard here for Dowd. It looks like the other drivers are going to try and close that gap, but it's not going to be enough. Dowd is just too fast at this point. They're pulling away, really maximizing that package for full send, full effect. So the gap is growing between themselves and the Red Bull, and it's only a matter of time. With the way they're driving, they are going to clutch up to the McLaren. Here we go. So in terms of tyre strategy, I don't believe that we will see any more tyre changes going forward. As now drivers are on the mediums, a lot more life than the softs. Some drivers, interestingly, Cameron going for the hards, and will definitely have to work those tyres in their favour with the lower base grip, but also less degradation, where the medium drivers will probably have to manage a little bit going into the tail end of the race, as the grip will start to fall off. And we see a little bit of blistering actually on the tyres of Dowd, to say really pushing his Alpine to the absolute max, touching a little bit of grass here. Although what has happened, Mats looks to have gone off. As we're going to quickly check in. Yep, they are retired. I'm not sure what happened to Mats there. but they have retired from the race, and it looks like Morwell is going to do the same. They're really dropping off on pace. Not sure what has happened to the second Aston Martin here. It is not a good race for Aston Martin in any stretch. We could see potentially another DNF here. But that is going to be the safety car out once again. Big shake-ups to the order may be coming, depending on if the drivers choose to pit or not. Say halfway through a soft medium strategy, are we going to see the drivers pit? That will mean, however, that they will have to take softs 11 laps. They'll have to eke out the softs for 11 laps of the race, and we saw the majority of drivers coming in after just 8. So it really will be a gamble for these drivers to see who's going to take the tyre conservation route versus sticking it out on the mediums and praying for another opportunity. It looks like mostly electing to stay out. We're not seeing very many pits. Dowd, interestingly, is going to go into the pits along with LTB and Cameron, who is swapping off the hards. Probably the wise choice in the case of the McLaren. Going to swap onto the soft compound now. Yep, all the drivers so far pitting for soft. Going to opt, by looks of things, for managing them to the end of the race, taking the initial pace where they can, using that free pit stop. Although Morwell, interestingly, is going to go to another set of mediums. So perhaps caught themselves in a bit of an awkward middle ground between running the mediums to their full potential and compromising what pace they could have had on the softs. Here we go. So we've got catching up to the order. So we had 3 DNFs this race, which far from ideal. So the last thing you want to see is a driver taken out of the running, and not to mention 2 of our fastest drivers who are knocked out, that being Frederick and Cass in the Mercedes and Aston Martin respectively. There we are, so we can see some of the other drivers, I say the drivers who pitted for softs. The objective from this point is going to be getting the heat into those tyres so they can absolutely maximize, go for flyers, and get as much out of those softs before they start to degrade, and they'll have to go into a bit more of a conservative strategy. So get the position early and then lock it in from there. And one thing that is worth commendation is just how clean this roster has been. As we've seen a couple of incidents, a couple of flashpoints, but no outright incidents due to drivers. As I say, we've had the major extent of that is a coming together between Frederick and Cass, but short of that, we've seen a couple of driver errors, but nobody get impacted. So one thing definitely worth mentioning, and shout out to all of the drivers in the lobby here for being very good racers, strong, fast racers, but also showing a good level of respect for their fellow drivers here in the lobby. Yep, and as we know, here in the Invictus Racing League, we pride ourselves on having clean, fair racing and having a good range of healthy competition across all of our leagues. So these drivers doing a stellar job of managing themselves, conducting themselves professionally as well. You can see there's Dowd doing a bit of weaving, really trying to work those tyres up to temp before we get started with race. You can see on their OSD, those tyre temps are quite low, and they're really trying to work them temperatures in. Here we go. There looks to be debris. If there was debris on track, that will hopefully be cleared by this stage. Perhaps, and this was to do with Matt's incident. Reportedly, it is a incident with the wall by the sounds of things. Well, I cannot check specifically at this moment in time. So rest assured that racing should be continuing very shortly. And there we are. That is the signal from race control that racing is about to get underway once more. So once again, we are going to hop in with Liam. So someone slap bang in the middle of the pack as drivers get ready for set off and ready to reinitiate their racing. There's certainly a good position for the soft drivers, but they will have to fight it up the grid. Will we see it happen? As it is safety car in, we are going to rocket down the start finishing straight. Racing has begun once again. Jasper doing a little bit of a squeeze there on Liam. Not sure what has happened to Dawid though. What happened to Dawid? They are out. They are out of the race. Have they retired? Have they gone to the pit lane? Yeah, potentially have gone to the pit lane. That is another DNF for Dawid here in the Invictus Racing League. What a shame. Say a driver who's putting on stellar performances but cannot bring them home. Catching no respite, no luck here, especially in Suzuka. What a shame for the new Alpine driver. So here we go. So it looks to be relatively settled on track now. So we're going to hop on with Lenny. We see all of the drivers coming through now, absolutely pushing the most out of their cars. This is all to play for now. This is likely going to be the last safety car of the race. At least hopefully so. We don't like to see any more incidents interrupting the racing, much less finishing under a safety car in any measure. Although there is countermeasures to prevent such a thing. It's going to be a very close battle. It's going to be Adam really poking their nose out, trying to give a friendly little reminder to Amir that he is not out of the woods by any stretch yet. And here we go. You can see just the queue starting to form behind and throughout the rest of the field as everyone is trying to push and maximize what race they have left. But it has certainly been some brilliant racing here. Then what has happened? Coop is out now. What's happened to Coop? They are also out. Again, that is both Alpines out of the race. That is another safety car. Both Alpines are out of the race. I believe at this point, call it the caster's curse, but what has happened is just as I was saying that would hopefully be the last safety car. We have immediately got another safety car and put a couple of questions in a lot of the grid's head. The question now for the drivers is, especially even more so than it was earlier, where they are very much caught in the middle, are drivers going to go for the conservative strategy and save their mediums, or are they going to go for softs and go for outright pace and even try, in the case of the leaders, to snatch the fastest lap point? They say Cameron still holds the fastest lap to my knowledge. Oh no, in fact it is Amir. Say we're 130.9, so great race pace there. But will we see any other drivers going for the softs in that case and trying to take the fastest lap point? Much needed points in some cases for the Drivers' Championship and their constructors. You can see Amir doing a little bit of a fake out, what it seems like. You're not sure why. So a couple of drivers say yes lad and Cameron both going to go into the pits, likely for the soft compound. There we go. As we all queue up behind the Aston Martin safety car now. Side note, one of my favourite cars. So in fact I run it as a race car and general team promotion car for Forza Team Wars. So I have a little bit of personal bias when it comes to that particular car. And it does very well here as the safety car for the Japanese Grand Prix. but we can see that a lot of the drivers are staying out on the mediums. They're opting to stay out, not wanting to take that loss in position, especially when the grid was already so close. If the grid had fanned out a little bit, if there had been a few more laps between this and the now safety car, it may have been a different story, but taking a pit stop at this stage at the front of the grid would likely mean going to near the back immediately, having just come off an SC period. But what a race this has been up so far. I missed out on so much of the race. Well, clearly you're not missing out on everything, because there's still plenty of action to be had. I say, and now the job is where the mediums are a lot harder to work the heat into. They're not as malleable as the softs. Drivers are going to have to work real hard to keep their heat in while keeping under the safety car's pace. You can see a lot of weaving up and down the grid. So they're just trying to get as much heat into those mediums while not trying to overwork them and reduce their stint life. But you have to commend a lot of the drivers on this track for the immense balancing act that they have to perform. I say, between ERS management, tyre management, and trying to set the outright pace on top of all of that, these drivers certainly have a lot on their plate to think about, and especially in the heat and the passion of a race, it's definitely a lot to juggle. You can see managing resources, and say at the car as well. Quite often at times, if you push too far, these cars are especially unforgiving. They will not hesitate to bite back if you take too much out of them. Here we go as we ride alongside the Ferrari and catch up with the rest of the field. So in terms of lap times, I say we're seeing it very close. The only outlier here being Liam with a 132.3. So in terms of one lap pace, they are quite far off the grid, but the good plays in terms of strategy have certainly played into their hands, as they are currently sitting in 5th place on the grid. And there we go. So Emir with the 130.9 looks to be the fastest lap standing of the race, unless any of the soft compound drivers, such as Yeslad, Cameron and LTB, unless they pull some magic towards the end of the race and score themselves into the 130s, which they may need if they want to get those leadership positions and start to make back some of the positions that they've lost over the course of the race. But here we go. It looks like it is going to be, once again, hopefully we can get racing underway. Safety car is going to be in this lap. Racing, hopefully for the last time, is going to get underway. We're going to hop in with the McLaren of Lenny Cook here. So taking a peek on the leaders. Whoa, bit of a lag there. Little bit of a lag. But here we go. It's going to be racing once again. So absolutely sending it into the start-finish straight. We have begun once more. Bit of a gap, though, between Lenny and Jasper. So getting a very good restart. The podium sitters currently. So a very good start here. Going to take a quick look at Liam and see how they're doing in the AlphaTauri. Certainly going to have to be on the defensive very shortly. So a little bit of a battle between Morwell and Yeslav. We're going to quickly take a peek on that here, as they're on the defense now also from Cameron, who's going to surge around the outside. LTB is gone, though. LTB has absolutely binned it. They've spun the car. What has happened there? Another casualty. That is another spin from LTB there. They certainly need to work on not pushing the car as hard potentially, because it looks like they're trying to extract 110% out of that machine where they can't necessarily get it. But there we go. That's going to be Morwell also as well, who looks like they pushed it too hard, because they have also had a bit of a spin, a bit of an incident, it looks like. So, a little bit of crazy happenings going on track right now. But you should see, hopefully we'll see some last minute changes. We're going to hop on now with Yeslad, who is on the soft compound, so current leader of the soft compound drivers, quickly trying to close the gap to the rest of the field as we see them absolutely sending it over the chicane and onto the start-finish straight. You can see in the soft compound, a driver like this, they have one goal in mind: make up as many positions as they possibly can and ensure that that gamble onto the soft compound with the more grip but also the higher degradation was worth it. If they can get ahead of the other drivers now, then when that degradation comes, other drivers are going to have a lot harder of a time trying to put up with a defense as opposed to trying to attack on a degraded soft. And see, they go again, taking a little bit of curb, getting a little bit unsettled, but doing very well to hold it together in the Alfa Romeo thus far. So we're going to stick with them now, as it looks like they're going to be posting a challenge to the mailbox of none other than Liam. They're going to try and peek around the outside, going to get majorly on the grass. They're going to have to retreat. Not quite going to make it happen through that sweeping right-hander. But by no means are they done yet. They're going to keep it close and keep it personal. As we head down into Sector 3, they're going to get the better run. They're going to absolutely sending it. Looks like we're going to go too wide into 130R. Barely touching the grass. It's a good bit of grass for Yeslad, but they're going to hold it together. That is a brilliant battle heading through into the chicane. It's going to be a lock-up on the right side, probably because of the grass. But that is a brilliant move. What a battle between Yeslad and Liam there. What a brilliant battle. And so, as to be expected, Cameron is going to take the fastest lap once again with a 130.916. You can see a brilliant battle happening on track. And in fact, we're going to sweep over to Liam now, as Cameron is going to sweep by, again, on the compound advantage, is going to fully make use of that. Liam's going to get a little bit unsaken, a bit unsettled by the move, potentially, as they probably took a hit to their confidence with that sudden overtake heading into the S's. Brilliant showing, though, so far from the soft drivers. Let's hope they can keep that trend going and make up as much places in the remaining 3 laps before their tyres start to give out and make way for the medium. But speaking of giving out, one thing I am curious of is Adam here, because they are on 16-lap-old softs. So they are surely on that tyre management game a little bit now. If they weren't before, they definitely are going to have to manage those mediums as we head into the last few laps. And coming up to the 20-lap mark, almost, on a medium set of tyres on a race distance like this, they are definitely going to have to play the defensive. So while not necessarily challenging Emir necessarily, as the gap looks to be growing, although that being said, they are within DRS activation, so they could keep the contention there. And there we go, it's on full deploy. Yeslad, though, with a 130.827 on the soft. Brilliant driving there. Making use of the compound advantage, as we said, to score that little extra point for the Alfa Romeo team. You can see just how much they're fighting these mediums. You can really see they're compensating for their steering. They're having to pre-aim and essentially pre-predict how their car is going to behave dynamically in real time. Say with the degrading levels of grip, they're going to have to send it a lot earlier than they otherwise would. You can see that a little bit. It looks very understeery in terms of just raw driving. It looks understeery, and usually it's a telltale sign. But here we go. Going to hop on with Yeslad now. Again, leader of the soft compound. So they're going to be, well, it looks like closing in, or at least attempting to close in on the Red Bull of Jasper as we head into the fast left-hander. Jasper, though, is going to also be trying to catch up to Lenny, and it looks like we are going to shortly be seeing a 3-way battle for 3rd place here, for a podium spot, as Jasper is slowly closing the gap, ever so slowly closing the gap, and it's Adam who's going to be joining the fray as well. A big send, so a little bit of a lock-up, it looks like, from Yeslad there. but it's all to play for. Jasper getting a bit out of shape, and that's going to be the perfect opportunity for Yes Lad to come sweeping in. Cameron is going to get a 130.561. Again, setting the pace on the soft compound, banking a much needed fast lap point, and really just trying to maximize that compound. To say Jasper is a little bit further behind, to say, but far from out of the running as we go through the S's. Drivers really trying to get the perfect line, maximize the pace going into sector 2, and really just a battle to the end, a true battle right to the end here. So we're going to see just how much of the curbs they're willing to take. Drivers are going to get desperate here, folks. This is all to play for. So the next zone is going to be where it all happens. We're going to see some send into 130R, hopefully, and we're going to see some spikes. I say Adam is fighting for his life, what looks like, on 18-lap old mediums. Is going to really have to be fighting and eking every last bit of performance out of that rubber. Here we go as we head into... Oh, Yes Lad's going to get a little bit shaken. A little bit of a counter rotation to compensate. But here we go. Is there going to be a move? There is not going to be a move made. To say Lenny is still peeking around. Adam's going to go on the defensive, but it's not going to be enough as we have Emir coming through to the end of the race. Another victory. That is 3 podiums in a row for the Mercedes driver. What a brilliant race. What a brilliant race for Emir there. What an exciting race as well. So lots of shake-ups, lots of drama. Safety car certainly playing a deciding factor in that race. What a competition it has been. As we check in now with the last remaining driver, LTB here. Say limping to the finish, what looks like, as they are far behind the rest of the pack, but still an absolutely brilliant showing by some of the drivers on the track here today. I say they all drove in a way that they could be proud of. There was no flash points, I say no big incidents that caused a rage. But no, very good driving by all involved. Very good racing here today, and certainly one to remember. Japanese Grand Prix certainly being a solid one, and it's going to be Liam taking driver of the day with their absolute surge up to the top of the order, coming from last place in qualifying after a 130.1, and really that was a stellar performance, a certain strategy win, banking on the safety cars and really just making it work with the strategy that they had. It paid out all in their favour. But so that is Emir taking another win here in Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. So to round off our standings there for the race, we have Emir in the Mercedes taking another first place with a 130.9 peak lap. So Lenny in the McLaren in second, Yes Lad in the Alfa Romeo, Jasper in the Red Bull, Adam in the Ferrari, Cameron with a 130.561, taking the fastest lap point. Also, a few drivers with penalties. This is your provisional standings here today. Liam in the AlphaTauri, so banking a 7th place. Morwell in the Aston Martin with a 8th. LCB in the 9th. Coupe 10th. Following that, we have the DNF drivers of, say, Coupe, Dawid, Mats, Frederick, and Cass, all getting DNFs, unfortunately. But still brilliant showings from all of the drivers involved here today. And certainly some driving to be proud of, as we have said. But it has been an absolute pleasure casting for you tonight. I say once again, I have been your commentator, Sappy. It has been great. It has been good fun. If you have not already, be sure to check out all of our socials. So like our Twitter is our main one. I say we do a lot of work there. And also, if you would like to get involved in the action and say look at some of the things that we do here, check out some of our partners such as GT Omega and Grid Finder. Also, you can check us out on our website. And then finally, if you want to see more content from me as a caster, as a person, as a racer as well, then you can check out my personal Twitch over on twitch.tv/Sappytron. But as far as the races go this evening, say it's been another maiden win for Amir. Shame about his teammate Frederick, but I have been your caster for this evening. I've been your host. It's been an absolute pleasure. And with that said, I am going to love you and leave you all. So be sure to join us for next week. We are taking it to the beautiful streets of Azerbaijan for the race round 5 in Baku. Be sure that you do not miss it. This is definitely one that you would not want to miss whatsoever. Certainly see some exciting racing and certainly some drama to be had. But that is all for now. Good night, racers. It has been a pleasure, and we will see you next week.